We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the CashFlowPro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of CashFlowPro, your daily real estate investing podcast and YouTube channel. I'm here today with Noel Walton, and you're going to have to tell me that company name again, Noel. Joint Chiefs of Real Estate, JCORE.
That's it.
Did I get it right?
Nailed it.
Boom. My audience knows I always aim to get those names right, to get name pronunciations and everything right, but sometimes it just doesn't work, especially if it's like a Thursday afternoon or Friday afternoon podcast. Then I'm like, huh? So anyway, but you doing okay today?
I am great. Thanks. How about yourself?
Oh man, we couldn't be better. Fall's in the air, and by the time this podcast airs, fall and football season should be in full swing. So no, everything's good, man. And my stepdad used to tell me when I was a kid, my audience has heard this before. He said the wife hasn't run off and the kids aren't in jail, so life's good.
It's always a good day.
It's all about perspective.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Tell us where you come from and how you got involved in real estate, and then I gotta hear this backstory behind the name, the real estate company name, the Joint Chiefs of Real Estate. So Let's see what you got.
Yeah. So my history, I joined the military, enlisted in the Air Force at the age of 18. Spent 6 years in there, security forces, guarding aircraft and doing all kinds of fun military stuff. After 6 years of that, I got out, went to college, got my degree. But while I did that, I said, hey, I missed the military. I'm going to go, do ROTC, get my commission, actually commissioned into the Army, and commissioned as an aviation officer. Then went to flight school, Fort Rucker, Alabama, and learned to fly Blackhawks. And that was about 2011 when I started that. And that was really at that same time was when my wife and I, my fiance at the time, we were shortly after that married, but we started discussing, hey, what do we want to do for future income? And we knew we didn't want to just do the routine of retire from the military, get a second job as most have to do, and we wanted to create more options and more freedom and more that financial freedom for ourselves. And how do we do that? So we started, obviously read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Sure. And all of that. That's how we got our start. Yeah, nobody.
Hey, I gotta stop you. Nobody ever talks about that book on this show, so I always.
So yeah, that's what got us started in that mindset, and gradually, I showed up to my first duty station, actually, at flight school, sure. And I started looking around at houses, and I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I bought something with my VA loan and lived in it for a year and a half and rented it out ever since. That's how we got that first start. We sold that one actually. Just the market was just perfect for it this last year. We finally sold that one, but we still own one in that market. It's been cash flowing great for us. But that's how we got the start. And did that. We actually got stationed in Hawaii. We used the VA loan again. So my advice, if you're military or a veteran, you have access to your VA loan, absolutely use that. I can go in much depth there, but if you're ever interested to talk more,
Well, now there's honestly, there's an abundance of ex-military in the syndication and in the capital raising space. I think a lot of it boils down to the systems that are involved. Like it's basically like system keeps working while system is working while I go off and do other things, set up other systems. And so we run into a lot of military folks that have started syndication companies. I think there's the guys over at Active Duty Passive Income. They've been on the show several times. And of course I've met and know all of them. But one thing we haven't really dove into, and I'd like to hear a little bit more, but you're allowed to get more? Tell us the specifics. Do you know the specifics on getting a VA loan and then obtaining a second VA loan and potentially a third? I know they do duplexes where you can like live in one and rent the other one. And I know they do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as the amount that you can borrow, I believe the VA has lifted the loan limits. There used to be limits, and it would vary depending on where you lived, what market. Because at the time that I purchased in Alabama, there was something like a 500,000 limit. Then I went to Hawaii, and there was like a 750,000 limit.
Is that per
Uh,
transaction or is that total?
That's total. That's total. So you could do multiple as long as you lived in one for a year. Then you could go on and buy another one as long as it fit within that total cap. Now, from what I understand, there are no caps. And these are things obviously you want to verify with a professional. But
Sure.
to my knowledge, now there's no cap on it. Plus, you can borrow anything for any residential. It means up to 4 units. And I highly advise if you can find a fourplex, use your VA loan. That is by far one of the best ways to get started. But
Yeah, because that's going to be, I mean, if you bought even if it was like a $300,000 fourplex and you could rent three of them out for say $600 a piece or $800 a piece, wherever
yeah,
you, depending on where your location is. I mean, man, you're in pretty good shape
yeah,
there. And I think,
absolutely. Yeah, you've got three other people paying your mortgage plus some income. Uh, Put that money away and invest into some syndications. That'd be my plan. But absolutely, it's a great tool. Highly advise people to use that while they've got it. And or at least start using it early, especially
yeah,
while you're
most
active
definitely.
duty. Because every duty station you can use it again and again and again. So no money down, can't beat that. So
Yep. All right. So you all started with that, and that was in Alabama, and then
correct. Yeah.
you kept that one there, and then you moved to
Yeah, we went to Hawaii. We
where?
used it in Hawaii,
Okay.
made some great appreciation. Then we got moved back to Alabama. And once we had that capital, that's where our wheels started really turning. Like, we really need to get more active with
That's
this.
where that
We
capital,
started putting that capital to work.
that
Yep,
house hack,
exactly. So we started doing
yeah,
some rehabs. We found a VA foreclosure, which is one we own now, actually, to this day. It's been cash flow great, own it outright. Just we've had huge equity in it, and we just keep borrowing against for more properties. And gradually, yep, go ahead.
Now, real quick before we go on the capital gains, and I know that the average person or the regular people like myself, we have to live in a house for 2 years before before the tax gains become tax, or before the capital gains become tax free rather. And isn't the military like 18 months, or do you have to own it less or something, like it has to be your primary residence?
Uh, it, I can't speak specifically to that. I know at the time when we sold our house in Alabama, we were going by the rule of we lived in it for at
Okay.
least two
Okay.
of the last 10 years, so we were able to avoid the capital gains. Correct. So there may be a military clause in there. I'm not 100% sure of that, but
Well, and I think that's another kind of almost an unrepresented benefit of this little rabbit hole we're in, of talking about the use of the VA, is if you're at a station for 2 years, you can then not sell that house, move to the next station, use your 100% VA financing to buy the next property, even if it's
mhm,
just a single family, and then you're able to ride out market corrections or whatever that go on in the meantime. And as long as you keep that window, as long as you've lived in that house for 2 years and you keep that window, the total window, shorter than 5, man, it's all tax free money. No taxes, zero.
yeah, absolutely. And you find a quality property management company when you leave, keep collecting cash flow and just keep building up
It's right
equity.
there. Right there, the cash flow.
That's
It's
it.
all
It's
about the
all about the
cash
cash
flow,
flow.
brother. So, all right. So you all.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but I just know there's little pieces here that people, that new
yeah, no,
folks
that's
that
fine.
come into the business, or new folks that come into this fold here with us, are like, and I wonder how. I hear about all these people saying, "Hey, this is how they got started. Now, how the hell do I get started?" So, all right. So you're back in Alabama, and you bought the VA. You bought a VA foreclosure that you still own to this day. Now, there has to be a point here where you started realizing, man, either I've used all of my capital, and or I want to move up into some bigger stuff. And when did that
Mhm.
light come on, and what did it look like what was your landscape like when that happened?
Yeah, so we spent about 3 years actively doing some fix and flips, some rehab, buy and hold type stuff, just all single family. That was all around the Fort Rucker, Enterprise, Alabama market, and then we ended up in Texas right after that. And is that right at that time, around 2019, we had our second daughter. So we my wife was managing a lot of the day-to-day stuff with our first daughter when she was young and fairly doable. Once we had two, that was kind of our tipping point. We're like,
Yep.
we don't have a lot of time. Like, what are we going
Gotta
to do
figure.
now? How can we scale this? And that's what got me thinking about multifamily. Like, hey, how can we get more income per property or for the effort that we're putting in? And how do really the scalability.
Yep.
And I found, I really started reading up on that within 18, 19, and really made the move in 2020.
Yep.
Really invested in myself, in the education, the mentorship, to launch me to where I needed to be with the network, the knowledge, the mindset, all of that combined. Which really is essential to being successful in this business. And then at that time, early 2020 was when I formed, along with my first partner, Miles, our team, the Joint Chiefs of Real Estate. And it was the two of us. Then shortly after, we brought on two more. And we're all from different branches of the military, which is where
Oh
the
wow,
joint
that's neat.
comes
Yep.
from. Yeah. So
There you go.
my Army experience, Miles was Air Force, now Space Force. We've got two others now, James and Tom, that were both Navy and former Marine. And now we've got a fifth one as well that just joined us from the Air Force Reserve, and it's been doing some good work for us as well. So that's where it's been our journey. We're now, since 2020, we are getting after deals. We're in 450 units as of probably 2 weeks from
Wow.
now. We'll be closing on our next 149. So it's been coming along really
Awesome.
great.
So you're fixing to go on 30, you're fixing to increase 30 something percent just with one closing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, so what I'd like for you to walk us through a little bit now, when you first started into the capital raising space and you all kind of all joined forces, if you will, where did you find your first investors at?
Yeah, that's it really was the networking. So we all had a decent network, and a lot of that came from initially the coaching and education program that we each of us had been a part of, at least one or
Mm-hmm.
another. And we brought a lot of those network connections, and within those network connections there are people who like to do only active deals as GPs, general partners. But there's also people who like to do LP, limited partner, passive investments as well. So we were able to reach out to a lot of those. We brought some of them into our first syndication deal, and just reached out a lot to friends, family, colleagues. Continue to grow our network and build these relationships with people, and that's what it's all
Yep.
about. You just constantly have to be networking, telling people what you do constantly, and educating them. So that's really what we are striving to do as a team now, through our social media, through email. As people join our email list, we send out educational material. We have educational material on our website so people can go on, read, listen to podcasts that each of us have been on before, and really offer that
Yep.
value that people can, if learn more about it. Does it fit what I want to do financially? And for a lot of folks, especially military, it's a great option,
Sure.
because if you're deployed overseas, if you're in a very busy job like a company commander or a battalion commander, whatever, you don't have the time as a battalion commander. I can tell you that, to go out and start flipping houses. So
Yeah.
when you get that first,
Yep. Well, I tell you, a lot of those guys, a lot of the American population, I think, is naive to the amount of money that some of those guys make, and that allow them to become accredited investors, overall. And while on the same token of not having time to go out and flip a house, they really are making enough money that they
yeah,
really don't have time to go out and enjoy it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you don't see those guys at bars, and you don't see those guys out, at a lot of just what typical people do on the weekend kind of stuff,
Exactly.
because that's how they got to where they are, because they're basically like pounding away every day. So when you started like into the raising other money and you started networking and you really started kind of seeing all of this come together, did you all do a 506B or 506C to start?
Yeah, we've so far have done all 506B syndications. So
So there's all people you know.
we don't advertise any of our deals. You have to be connected with us and tied in on our investor club email list. And once we've been on a call, we've got to know you, then you can join our investor club and you get notifications of all our deals. Once they get under contract, we start raising for them. You'll be the first to know. Then we host a webinar, put all the details out, like ask questions, and make sure that you're comfortable investing with us in the deal, in that market, so forth. That you understand the process.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that keeps it, I mean, that keeps the circle small. That also allows you all to really know, because I'm a big proponent, and I always tell people, the people that you let into your syndication are you're married to them for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, you really, unless you just sign off and let them completely out and give them their money back, you're married to them.
Yeah.
Like these are your partners now, whether they're basically a silent partner or whether they're an LP, otherwise known as an LP, don't have a lot of say so in the daily management. They can have a lot of say so in your aggravation factor.
Yeah.
And so I like the fact that you all keep your circle small and you really keep that investor network tight. So the first deal that you all did, how many units was it, and what did that raise look like?
Our first syndication was 172 units. We had a total raise of close to 4.5 million. So it was a tall order for a first syndication. Yeah,
one?
absolutely.
Whoa!
So we worked our butts off.
That is, you know what I call that? That's whoop ass, my man.
It was
That's
quite a deal, yeah. And we pulled through, got it together. Very last minute, very stressful. I will say that. And I think a lot of other syndicators can.
How many total investors? How many total investors was the 4.5 million
We
made
had
up
a
of?
total of 50 investors in that deal.
15 or 50? I missed that.
50 investors.
50.
Yeah.
Wow. How many years ago now?
This was March of 21. So we're
Wow. So like
a year and a half ago.
A year and a piece ago. Wow, my gosh, my Lord, man, that's a lot. And 50 investors. So basically you had $100,000. You were, well, I think they say the average in this business per investment / investor that makes the investment is like 76 or 78 grand or something. So that's like almost spot on, right? I mean, that doesn't lack a lot.
Yeah. And we had a good range between our minimum of 50 all the way up to $500,000. So obviously kind of spread out. We had a good number of 100,000s, a couple of 250s.
I bet that guy that put the $500,000 in sure took some sweat out, didn't? I bet y'all really just went wiped the sweat off the brow and said, "All right, guys, we're looking here." So no, that's awesome, man. That's such a kick. I mean, that's getting it done for your first deal. That's what I like to hear. So, and how many doors was it? Did you say? I missed that.
172.
Dude, like I hear people like starting with like 12 or 16 or 18, man. I mean, but there was four or five of you at that time.
There was 4 of us at that time, and we did partner. We did have a KP that came in and signed on the debt, brought the net worth, the experience that we needed to close on that loan.
What was the structure like when the KP entered the deal? Like, okay, so because a lot of people get lost at this point. This is like a big cluster point for a lot of people who are trying to come in. Okay, well, that's great. You guys are telling me how I can go out and raise my 20%, but what about if I'm buying a $10 million building, I've raised $2 million, or grandma's going to invest $2 million, or dad's got whatever the case is. Now, wonderful. I got that. I got this, but the bank says I can only borrow $1 million. Where did you find them? What did you have to do to get them involved? And what was all the details?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, the coaching, education, mentorship program, that's where I actually met this KP. He was my coach when I joined, and having
Okay.
that connection was phenomenal. And that's why I say people will say, "Oh, I can get out and learn this business on my own." You might, but how many years, how many mistakes is it going to take you to achieve success? So I 100% recommend get into a good, yes, it costs some money, but it is
Absolutely.
absolutely worth it.
Absolutely.
And
$100.
having him as a coach was really instrumental to me achieving the success early on. But like I said, we found this deal. I established a great relationship with this broker. Started talking to him about the deal. We initially put in an offer, didn't get accepted, but I followed up about a month and a half later. How's that deal going? Oh, sounds like the buyer may not follow through with their capital raise. And, if you guys are interested, I can get you back in front of them if this falls through. Sure enough, followed up. We came back with a little bit stronger offer. We got right in front of the seller and got us under contract. So, it just took,
Man,
uh,
where was that at?
that was
What
in
was
Waco,
it?
Texas. Yeah, we got,
Oh man, yeah. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people sleep on Waco. Waco's a good area. I love it out there.
yeah, it's growing. And it's one of those secondary markets. So it doesn't have the same attention as Dallas Fort Worth and Austin, and now you're up and coming San Antonio, places like that. So but it is in that
That's right.
I-35 corridor. There's growth there. There's a
Yep.
stable market. So we absolutely we're happy to get
Well,
into that
good.
one.
So now,
And that's how it came about. But once we saw the numbers, we ran the numbers, we brought it to our KP, who was my coach. He looked at it and said, "Yeah, absolutely, I'll do this. Let's go." So then we figured out, what are our general partnership team percentage splits? What do we all get depending on what we bring to the table, whether it be a certain amount for raising capital, a certain amount for, he received a good portion of the deal because he brought his balance
yep,
sheet, his experience, his net worth, all of that, all of that. Then we were able to get a little bit more percentage on our side for bringing the at-risk capital. We had the uh, deposit money that's at risk capital essentially, plus paying for inspections and
yep,
things like that out of pocket. Obviously, that is a risk because if something goes wrong and you have to walk away, you don't get that money
yep.
back. So you get a little bit of extra of the percentage of the general partnership for that risk that you take. So all of that combined, we put this team together and worked out well. It was, like I said, it was definitely a lot of work, and we learned a lot. And I like to say that I learned probably a master's degree out of one deal, and it was quite an experience.
Yep. Isn't it funny how that happens, man? You get like that's what they always talk about. All this. I graduated from college, so I'm not necessarily saying I think not going is the way to that happens. But man, I tell you what,
Absolutely.
there's something to be said about that real world. That real world coming there, and like you said, all of a sudden now all of the little nuances and all of the little things become nuggets that you didn't learn from that
Yeah,
book.
absolutely. I
So
think
I
that
don't know, man.
combination of the
That's
two
yeah,
is
you're
great.
exactly right. So, when you say when you say that the KP received a good portion of the deal, um, what can you explain the like the
Mhm.
percentage breakdowns and how that looked? Because again, I think a lot of people don't even know how to present a deal to a potential KP and say, "Hey, man, if you bring your balance sheet, we'll give you this." Like, what did that end up? If you feel comfortable, if you're comfortable talking about it, I don't want to
Yeah, yeah,
dig
absolutely.
into too much personal stuff. But we don't have addresses, we don't have names. I just want to. I'm just trying to get a general.
No, that's not a problem at all. So yeah, just ballpark. Generally, what you'll see is a breakdown within the GP side of a deal. Obviously, there's two different sides. There's the LP and the GP side. So you'll have a split of the total equity. Usually, it'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 or 70% on the LP side, and the other either 40 or 30% on the GP side. So whatever that smaller portion is. Then out of the GP slice of the pie, you figure out of your team, you'll assign maybe 30% for the total capital raise. So if you raise half a capital, you'll have 15% of the GP, or if you raise all the capital, you would have 30% of the GP. So depend, obviously, pro rata. There's the asset management. That's a huge part of it, and that's really where the rubber meets the road. Is once you close on that deal, asset management is there to constantly, you're not say monitor, you are monitoring KPIs from your property management. You're keeping an eye on what they're doing, what's going on with unit turns, making sure everything is on time, on budget. So essentially closely related to project management, but you're also, keeping track of KPIs for the investment itself, not just on the property, but you're balancing. Okay, what is their accounting looking like?
Mm-hmm.
Are we, what is the cost right now? And that's something that, like, you're balancing out. Okay, when you start doing these unit turns, you might be at 5,000 per unit, but you look at 6 months down the road, it's probably gonna be 6,000 a unit. Things like that. You're
Right.
just keeping monitoring all of that progress, finding ways to cut expenses, finding ways to increase income, and making sure that property can run like a business as efficiently as
Yep.
possible. That's what the asset management side is doing. So asset management gets a significant chunk, a portion of the assigned GP. Then there's obviously the KP, whatever the KP brings. So in order to qualify for the financing that you need for these properties, whether it be Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, whatever, these back finance lending, you're going to have certain requirements across the team. So the net worth of the team combined, the liquidity, and the experience are one of the three top ones that they're going to look for. So in general, it could be, what we're seeing now is about 10% of the loan amount for liquidity, a combined net worth equal to the loan amount, and then of course experience in that market, that class of asset, things like that they're going to want to see that the team can meet as a whole. Now, obviously, we brought in a KP that covered probably 85% of that total, especially with the experience. So we had to check all the box, but because he brought all of that, we gave him, an extra. We probably had him somewhere in the neighborhood of 40, if I remember off the top of my head, 40% of the deal, something like that. So a pretty sizable chunk
Of the GP
of the
side,
GP
right?
side, correct?
Okay. So we got 100% of one deal. We've got 100% of 123 Main Street,
Correct.
right? 123 Main Street is then divided in 70% of the property purchase price is a loan, right? 30% is this private equity structure, right? Then 30% of that 30% is GP. 70% of that 30% is LP,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the CashFlowPro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must-Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making CashFlowPro part of your day. Now, back to the show. So then KP gets 40% of 30% of.
Yeah. So, and you kind of have to think of it as two different things. So you're talking about the capital stack. So that's going to be the debt as well as the equity to reach the total amount needed to close. And then obviously all of the equity is being brought by the LPs, but they are getting 70% of the equity assignment within the deal. So,
Okay. I know that I get confused as
no
many
worries.
of these deals as I've looked at. I just thought it was kind of a prime time to make a decent explanation of all of this to the listeners so that they can get a good sense of why, because we've had the KP discussion on here before. Again, a lot of people, there's a couple of different places people stress out at. The first place is the chicken or the egg. Do I have the deal or do I raise the money? Well, you can't raise money without the deal. If you have a deal with no money, then you're constantly missing, right? Then the second part is, okay, again, I can raise the money. I've got the friends, the family, the network to raise the money, but where do I get that extra oomph to be able to go to the bank and say, yeah, can I borrow $8 million? Now, the last question regarding all of this that we've just gone through that I have for you is, was your KP required to sign on a recourse or non-recourse loan? And just for context purposes, so the listeners understand, non-recourse basically means that asset is the only thing responsible for that loan. That asset, if that asset gets foreclosed on and has a $2 million shortfall of paying it off, that bank cannot, non-recourse, that bank cannot go after the partner, or that bank cannot go after any of the partners, the KP, the LPs, the GPs, nobody. They're basically a written off, completely non-recourse loan, but it's secured by the government most of the time. Recourse means, hey, if we're $2 million short on paying this property off, we're coming after you for the rest.
Correct.
So was it recourse or non-recourse?
Yeah, so we obviously stick with non-recourse. It is very risky to go into a recourse where you are personally guaranteeing loans, and obviously we do everything we can to keep it as safe as possible, where we know, hey, we're not going to end up upside down on this. But you never want to be in that position, or risk being in that position. So we go with.
That's right. Well, and these guys coming in and signing on these loans, I mean, they're not going to come in and sign and be like, hey, guys, you all are responsible for operating this asset that they can come after me and get the balance of if we don't have enough when we sell it to pay it off or when it gets foreclosed on. I mean, it'd be ignorant. But I want to point out real quick, you and I both sat here and we've just talked around the whole circle of the value of a balance sheet. Right. So here this guy's getting passive income simply for his net worth with nothing at risk. I mean, he's signed on a loan that's non-recourse, nothing at risk for you all to go out and earn the money, and he gets passive income.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a huge benefit as you grow in the business, you build your net worth, you build your experience, you can basically earn your way into those types of positions where you can bring a balance sheet and sign on a loan and get a slice of that GP. And, in a lot of cases, you are going to want to be a part of that and not just walk away and let it go. You're going to want to, keep track, stay alongside the asset management, watch what's going on, offer advice.
Well, you need to maximize it. I mean, if you're allowed or asked to be in the deal, you want to maximize what you're getting. You don't want to just be in it and just get, all right, well, no, listen. So I've got a couple questions we ask every guest that comes on the show. And I know I feel like I've interrupted you the whole time, but I just get so many good points that we went across. And, again, I feel like we have a lot of military listeners, people that are just learning about, man, what can I do to turn my massive income into passive income kind of stuff. And so that's where we're at. But anyway, so the first of the two questions that I asked was actually three questions. What is the best book that you've recently read or are currently reading?
So recently I got to get some catching up. We've been actually out on the road, traveling the country by RV last 7 months. So that's been a little hectic, but we're finally settled down now. But recently, a couple recent ones are really good. Was Vivid Vision, really good one, and another one, Traction by Gino Wickman. If you're looking really more specifically to businesses and teams, Traction is a great book, kind of an introduction into the entrepreneurial operating system called EOS. And that's something that we're incorporating now and implementing into our practices and our systems within JCORE. But it's such a great way to make your processes more efficient, keep the team more accountable, put the right people in the right roles, and making sure that you're meeting your goals and you're setting that 1 year, 3 year, 10-year targets that you want to meet in all of your various your goals there. Yeah. So great book.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. What is it? And obviously you may have just answered the second question with that answer there, but what is the dream vacation that you've taken or hope to take?
Let's see. My family and I love to travel. Like I said, we had fun 7 months across the western half of the U.S. from January until August. And we actually, now I'm an expat. We just moved over to Austria, which is where I'm at now. And we're going to do some more traveling around Europe when we get some time, but the girls just started school. So we got a first grader and a kindergartner, and But my wife is from over here.
Isn't that something like any particular reason Austria? I
Yeah,
mean,
my wife is from here,
was there any?
and we have her family,
Okay.
friends, great network support here, and so
Oh,
working the
wow.
business
Sure.
remotely, and of course the rest of my partners are all East Coast in the U.S. And but it's a great place to
Yep.
live, great place to vacation. It's just beautiful out here.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of our European places that we want to hit. We've been to Italy and France and Romania, but Austria is pretty high up on the list. Just pretty much because
Nice.
I don't feel like Austria is that huge touristy kind of place. Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't feel like that. I think there's obviously some monuments and some history there to go see,
Yeah.
but you just don't hear of a lot of people saying, "Oh my gosh, can't wait! I'm going to Austria next week." Now you start talking about Italy or France and some of that stuff, then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it gets
Well, it's
anyway.
yeah, it's a
Awesome,
beautiful place. If you come out here, just look me up, shoot me a message, and some
sweet,
beautiful
cool. All
skiing
right, so
here and
listen, how
beautiful
can
summer activities as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So you heard that right there. And said he sent him a message. He's there. He's ready to have you moving in. So, all right. What is a good way for the listeners if they heard something that resonated with them, or possibly they want to learn more, especially if they're, I don't want to say especially if they're military, but if they have the military connection with you and can reach out and learn about how either A, how to invest, or B, learn more about let's see, Joint Chiefs of JCORE, right? Okay, so how can they do that?
Yeah, JCORE, that's it. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. If you're absolutely love to connect with anyone looking to put their money into a recession resistant
Sure.
asset class like this, it's a great time to be doing that versus holding it in the bank. Especially with inflationary environment, you don't want to be losing value in the bank. So, but military is where we connect the most. We love connecting with military, especially those that know about this, are ready to invest. And even if you're not, if you want to learn more, absolutely connect with me. Happy to answer questions, get on a call. But you can email me at noel@jcoreinvestments.com, JCORE
Okay.
investments.com, and as well, check out our website, jcoreinvestments.com. Got some great learning materials in there. Check them out. Then you can sign up for a call through our website as well. We have a Calendly link in there to see what times are available. Just click on what works for you, and happy to get you
Awesome,
started.
man. That's great. And Noel, I can't thank you enough. I didn't realize you were overseas when we first jumped on, but man, I'm sure working in the night or during the night is probably nothing new to you, or late evenings or whatever it is, whatever time it is there. But well, thank you so much, man. We appreciate it. We appreciate everything you've given to us and the value that you brought to myself and the audience today by talking about your experiences and how you got there. So listeners, as always,
Yeah.
please head down and hit that subscribe button, smash that subscribe button, and also leave us a review. We value our reviews. We have to have them to continue growing the podcast and to continue moving up in the different channels. So please leave us a review, smash that subscribe button, and I want to thank everybody for their time, especially you, Noel, and listeners. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day.
CashFlowPro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.